The reason I want to talk about uncertainty is because uncertainty is central to all of our work in regards to healing ourselves and others. Uncertainty is omnipresent in our lives. And if someone's trying to grow spiritually and make life a fully lived experience, then this topic needs to be explored as deeply as possible. If it's as omnipresent as air, we need to deal with air. If it's as omnipresent as water, we need to deal with water. Uncertainty is omnipresent. Our relationship, knowing who we are, our relationship with ourselves and the relationship with the world depends upon our talking and exploring what uncertainty actually is. Only doing this, only working with uncertainty allows us to become a healing presence in the world, bringing more wholeness to whomever we meet, in whatever role we take in life. This attitude of being a healing presence, of someone who is exploring uncertainty, is at the basis of all of our non-dual Kabbalistic healing work. All of our meditations. In fact, I was thinking this yesterday or this morning, that meditation itself is about uncertainty. Isn't that interesting? You never think about that. Even if you're doing a meditation that is very concentrated, like a mantra or counting a breath, it's really about uncertainty. As soon as you sit down to do anything dealing with meditation, you are already in the world of uncertainty. It may not be stated that way, but that's exactly what's happening. So, uncertainty is at the basis of all of our non-dual Kabbalistic work. And we are both learning techniques in our work and tuning our relationship with uncertainty constantly throughout the entire curriculum. So my aim here today is going to be to suggest that the usual way we approach dealing with uncertainty may not be the only way that we can relate to uncertainty, and it may not even be the best way. It may be true that if we illuminate how uncertainty actually works in the world and in our lives, we might find that there is a deeper relationship to be had with this building block of reality. Because it's not an accident, it's a building block of reality. It's absolutely fundamental to the time-space continuum, so to speak, to the most fundamental aspects of our reality. The usual view is that we have to allow ourselves to experience uncertainty, and though it can be very frightening, learn to become comfortable with it and realize that we can get through it. And maybe even to find that it can be beneficent in some way. In a way, this view says that we have to find our capacity to deal with uncertainty, to work with our fear of uncertainty, and to take a chance and to come through it. People get this, right? Mm-hmm. This is a worthy thing. This is an important thing for us to do. And psychologically, we all need to go through this developmental stage of relating to uncertainty in that particular way. There's no way around it, especially if we want to grow to our full capacity. You can't grow to your full capacity unless you're willing to take everything in. But I'm going to suggest in a few moments an additional perspective, one that suggests a way to directly transmute the energy of uncertainty, letting it sit on its base, which is a Kabbalistic kind of phrase that really means letting it be itself. Letting it be its actual identity. Letting itself unfurl, unfold, and reveal its true nature by letting it be. When we do that, we increase our bandwidth, our body's bandwidth, our mind's bandwidth, which is to say our consciousness. Our consciousness expands. The spectrum of our consciousness can take in more of reality. The Magi process actually works in this way, and I know there are going to be a number of very deep excursions into the Magi process in our time together. Uncertainty is a constant feature in our lives. And since it's a constant feature, it behooves us to build a body, and by body I mean our spiritual body, our mental body, our emotional body. It behooves us to build a body that has the ability to metabolize reality as it is. As Roxana, you said to me not long ago, you said, we want to build a body that can tolerate more sensation. Remember saying that? We were drinking at the time. But I wrote it down because it was a good statement. That's what wholeness is about. Being in the real world, whether that world is inner world or an outer world, and meeting that world in friendship. In fact, this whole talk is going to be about friendship on a certain level. Now, that's my preamble. All of that said, let me give you some personal feelings about this. I wish that when we started discussing this topic, my cohorts and I, that we'd been a little bit more creative. I wish we had chose a better topic. for our first all-school meeting under the auspices of the foundation, created by the CAC. I don't like uncertainty. Never have. And I'm disappointed that we have to talk about this. We tried a lot of other ideas, and I wrote them down. Keeping the environment from scaring us. It didn't fly. How to have a good meal while meditating in order to save time. I personally thought that was a good one. I was overruled. How to exercise while doing healings in order to save time. Here's one close to my heart. How to keep an even keel while visiting your parents. Two more. How to keep anyone ever from disliking us. I mean, to me, that was a no-brainer.
How this guy got overruled.
It's astounding. It's astounding to me. And the last one, which we almost went with, how to never, ever, ever be scared or alone. So, you know, as we talked, we realized we were very uncertain about which would be the most popular. So at the end of the day, we couldn't decide on a topic. There was even some disagreement about when the end of the day was. But I'm happy to say we remained friends through all of this, except for one. And you know, even as uncertainty came, you know, up the tidal plane toward where we were standing. It's a rather poor topic because although we didn't do a scientific survey, we talked to some people and we realized that most people were not fans of uncertainty. Most people felt that they had enough of this resource in their lives as it was, that we didn't need to talk about it for 3 days. So we said we would meet the next day to finalize it and decide what we were going to do, but people were uncertain about the meeting time and didn't show up. So, alas, here we are, as I wrote here, with this poor excuse for a spiritual topic, and we are stuck with it. Now, since I wrote that, the world has convulsed several times over, right?
Yeah.
In the U.S. and around the world. This is truly a frightening time that we live in. And, you know, statistics say that we're actually living in one of the safest eras, especially in modern history. We are actually living in a very safe era, but the nature of the convulsions and the violence and their arbitrariness and the fact that they are not in designated areas, if I may put it that way, that they could be anywhere, in a marketplace, in a nightclub, on the street, in a church, in a mosque, so on and so on, makes it very terrifying, the suddenness and the arbitrariness of it, and the cruelty that's embodied in it. Enormous cruelty. My wife Arlene said to me this, it's a great statement: there's no clear separation between here and there anymore. Because of media, we have an immediate and interconnected world. Everywhere is here. Everywhere is here. And the impact, the emotional impact of all of that, we really, really feel. San Bernardino, Orlando, Dallas, Paris, Nice, Turkey, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, ISIS, each bringing their own type of insanity into the world. Here in the United States, African Americans are protesting the inequalities that minorities suffer every day. The police themselves are under siege. There was another killing this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So when people are afraid, they tend to go to their lowest parts. They tend to ask their lowest, smallest, meanest parts to take control. People's vision and hope narrows, both from fear and from change of every sort, and people gravitate towards strong men who say they will bring back control. Things move to the right, and this happens throughout history. This is not, you can look at all of history, all of recorded history, and see this to be true. It happens over and over again. So our discussion about uncertainty today is important because uncertainty is the catalyst that pushes most people into their smallest and worst parts, their most narrow parts. And if we can understand what uncertainty is on some level, before we even try to fix ourselves and fix the world, or even understand it, we have the chance of bringing more sanity and groundedness to the world. So, when I sat down to think about uncertainty, I ran into an immediate problem. Here's the problem. It was a very interesting problem. The very act of trying to talk about uncertainty seemed to me, if I was honest, an attempt to corral this uncorrallable thing. To lasso this beast. To subdue uncertainty. I couldn't think of a single insightful, overarching, grown-up thing to say about uncertainty that was not a secret attempt to make it into certainty. You get this?
Yeah.
Isn't this interesting? Uncertainty is really your friend. Okay, now I'm certain about that and I feel much better. Well, we should thank uncertainty for the weather, which needs to be wild in order for the earth to work, and so on. So we have a problem. If we want to create laws about uncertainty and to discuss how to deal with it, or create a structure around it to make it palatable by revisioning it in some manner with a set of rules or inspirations or attitudes or conceptualizations or some such, we're already trying to tame uncertainty and take away what it really is. We are, by doing these things, essentially trying to make it into something more pleasant so we can swallow it without gagging and be braver about having this usually unwelcome traveler knock on our door. Just think about this for a minute. You already have, I can see, and you'll find this to be true, don't you? It's not a bad thing. It's human nature. But we have to reveal human nature in order for us to be able to deal with the truth. Once we have the truth in front of us, it's a little bit easier to deal with. Anybody want to say anything about this? I'll pause for a minute if you do.
There's something about what you were saying.
Loud, so everybody can hear you.
I was actually reflecting on this yesterday in our day of silence, and I started a poem about it because I felt like I could only find the uncertainty somehow in between the words, sort of in the silence. There was something very much about the silence that allowed the uncertainty, but that once I tried to bring words into it, it gets really screwed up. But I don't know how to but conceptualization is with words.
Well, can I?
Yes, please.
This is off topic a little bit, but as someone who writes and reads poetry, the problem, we could put it positively or negatively, but it's very interesting to think about. The great poets, no matter what they're saying, even if they're saying the pail of water was full, uncertainty is in everything that they write, the great poets. So when you take Shakespeare, for instance, as a great poet, the play, the statements in the play, the words in the play convey the action and what's happening, but leave a kind of diffuse field of uncertainty that's extremely broad and allows you into a human and alive situation. Many poets who are not as good, more minor poets or people who don't happen to have that view, create poems that are either too diffuse, so you don't know what's going on, or too constructed so that there's no life in them.
It's just a narration.
It's a long topic. I could talk about this all day. Anyone else? Yes, Steve.
I think when you couple the concept of uncertainty with the concept of change, which is ever present in the concept, you realize the point that you were making, the impossibility of taming it and turning it into certainty.
Yeah. Well, you're also making the point in a sense that since change is part of life, I lost my train of thought for a second. Since change is part of life, that uncertainty is part of change. It's that fundamental, that entwined. So I'll go on, yes? This realization that we do this to certainty, that this is our strategy, a human one, a tender one, an understandable one. It makes our discussion very difficult. Because as soon as we try to categorize and isolate the forces of uncertainty, we are trying to make uncertainty disappear. It's as simple as that. It even gets a little bit more subtle. I just realized as I looked at this paragraph, when we try to categorize uncertainty or add a structure so that it becomes more palatable, we are already looking at certainty from the point of view of certainty. Did I say it right?
Looking at uncertainty.
We're looking at uncertainty through the lens, the invisible lens, the lens we don't realize, the glasses that we don't realize we're wearing of certainty. So this means that we have this lens on all the time, which complicates matters even further. What would it be like? What would happen if we were able to face uncertainty directly? Is there a way we can do that without losing our humanity? And by humanity, I mean our need to modulate uncertainty so that we can survive. Is there a way to do this? So, there are some attempts, for instance. Let's say we start asking ourselves, is uncertainty simply a form of chaos? And what would it be like if we added chaos to our lives? This seems like a reasonable thing to do. And then we would have a nice conceptual discussion about chaos theory and fractals and strange attractors and all of that. Again, these are features of the world and they're so important. And yet, secretly, we are solving ourselves. There's some word that I can't think of now, but so we are calming ourselves down by now having a very sophisticated structure in which chaos or some version of uncertainty has its place in the world. And that's good. It's true. And it makes sense mathematically and conceptually. However, we're not only mathematical and conceptual beings. Each one of us, is in the eye of the storm. We never know what's going to happen in the middle of the night. We want to live lives we can count on. This is not a shameful desire. This is part of the evolutionary moment of our species and of the world. We want to continue continuing. We emotionally count on this continuity being something we can depend upon. And when there's some force that disrupts this certainty, we are emotionally injured in some way. Shock, disappointment, even a sense of embarrassment. People get this? Mm-hmm. With me? So even if this uncertainty is not as earth-changing as a war or an earthquake, for instance, and it's more personal, such as a sudden illness or just bad news or a failed test or a rejection of some sort, a lack of money, a change of location or plans or direction. All of these things have a way of throwing us for a loop. This is our lives. This is what happens to us all the time. We're emotional beings with egos that depend upon a steady flow of events that mirror the idea of safety that we're all born with and depend upon. So it's at this point we have to ask ourselves, as I said a few moments ago, is there another way to attempt to even talk about this? Even if we return to the necessity of chaos in any system that is alive, from human beings to animals to weather to the creation of galaxies and planets and so on, is there's something that we're missing by jumping to an explanation too quickly. I'm going to repeat that. Is there something that we're missing if we try to jump to an explanation of uncertainty's role in our lives, etc., too quickly? Are we missing an opportunity? Is it good enough, for example, to come back from this meeting with a list of 10 ways you can handle uncertainty? I put a little marginal note and I'd say, please give me that list. I would like that list. I would like that list. You know, and in a developmental sense, it's important for us to have coping strategies, right? Again, I'm always going to come down on the other side as well. Being an awakening human being doesn't mean you don't need coping strategies, and you don't need strategy in general, and that you don't want a particular type of life and so on. It doesn't mean you become a mannequin, or a stone, or a cloud. What an interesting combination of things. A mannequin, a stone, and a cloud. Mannequin, a stone. And yet, if I came back with this list, if that's what I actually came back with 10 great suggestions as to deal with, how to deal with uncertainty, really in my heart of hearts, I would feel I've missed an opportunity to do something brave. To go directly into the heart of something that would change me instead of just changing my behavior. You know, it's good to change our behavior sometimes. It's really good to change your behavior. You know, part of me is from the Newhart School of Psychoanalysis. Stop that. Stop it. Just stop it. But not these fundamental questions. There's a lot of people I'd like to say stop it to. The world would be a better and safer place if we would say that and people listen. But to be effective human beings, to be whole human beings, to be human beings who awaken to their place here on earth and understand why they were born, we have to go deeper, and we have to go into these uncomfortable, often uncomfortable places. That's what this talk is about, being uncomfortable. Even the air conditioner kept quiet to listen. Just, we have to remember that at every juncture, this is going to happen over and over, simply trying to structure uncertainty away or to put it onto control is something we're going to want to do. So we have to just accept that about ourselves. That's the first attitude of kindness that we want to have in this exploration, is to say, we're going to do that. We have a deeply ingrained evolutionary imperative to do that. It's okay. We are not only our evolutionary imperative, we're also our creative spirit, our unam vitae, our, you know, we're something else.